Hello and welcome to Valentin Consulting's guest speaker series. I am Dr. Daisy Valentin, the CEO of Valentin Consulting, and I'm so thrilled to have everyone here on our dynamic YouTube channel where we host our exclusive guest speaker series that we launched back in May 2024. Can you believe it? And we are so excited to host so many different guest speakers here that collaborate as leaders locally, globally, nationally to bring some personal and professional growth to everybody, whether it's leadership, whether it's expertise, doesn't matter the field you're in. Every leader is providing some impactful information. And no different than today. We have a wonderful lady today with us. This is Cindy, and she is a wonderful guest speaker that we're having today. And we're going to learn a little bit more about Cindy, and we're so happy to have you, Cindy, here today. So, Cindy, please tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, what's your business, what do you do? Please share with us.
All right. It is so nice to be here with you and to be able to absorb all of that energy that I feel coming from you. I'm Cindy Brockway, and I am a courage coach. I've been a courage coach probably since I graduated from high school, maybe even before that. And I started my degree, my career, I should say, in special education. And I was in that career for over 30 years.
Wow.
And then I kind of transitioned starting in 2018 and then a little bit more in 2020 when I retired early. And I have transitioned to be able to do some online mentoring and coaching. And I focus on high achieving professionals, people just like you, just like me. And I help them reconnect with their purpose and vitality. So there you go, purpose and vitality. We use practical tools for self-care, for gaining clarity, and for emotional renewal so that we can thrive and continue to do what we love to do without sacrificing our own energy or happiness. And as far as where I'm from, I'm living in Murphy, North Carolina, but I am a traveling grannypreneur. So, we have a 38-foot pull-behind camper. And we have been, especially since I retired early in 2020, we have been traveling 6 weeks at a time with my mom, because I'm a caregiver for my mom. And we go all over the place, mostly in Florida and Mississippi, because guess who lives in those two states?
Yes, right?
Our grandkids.
Our grandbabies. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So that's what we do. And I'm also an Etsy shop owner. You know, when I was teaching, and probably about the last 15 years of my career, I wanted to make a little bit more money on the side. So I started an Etsy shop, and that's why I have this she shed here where I'm tuning in from.
I love it.
And I make jewelry. So you'll see all my tools and stuff hanging over there on the wall.
And the jewelry you have on too, right? Is that your jewelry too? Yes. Look at her sparkling. But you know what? That's amazing because Gmas are awesome. Okay. I'm a Gma too. I'm a Gma. I call it Gma. She's a traveling Gma. I like that term, traveling Gma, because I got to start traveling too, because I have grandkids in California and then I have grandkids here in Minnesota. So I have 6 grandchildren total. And because I just had my 6th grandchild, and a 7th is on its way. So, woo! So 2 will be in California. The rest are here next to me. So I will be traveling to the summer states. You know, I call it the hot states. Get me out of Minnesota here.
Yeah,
but that's so amazing that you have all this. You are traveling grandma. You can do your business from anywhere. That's the wonderful thing. You can do this from anywhere. But let's touch a little bit about that courage coach. Okay. Let's talk about that a little bit. So, what are some challenges people face when trying to stay focused on what truly matters. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, did you mention that you were an educator before this?
Yes, yes. For almost 30 years. Yeah.
30 years. So you work with a lot of educators too, right?
Yes.
So,
Yep. Educators and service providers. And I'll tell you what, in the field of education, when you work for the Department of Public Instruction, there are some really positive and wonderful things in the field of education, but it's also very notorious for being like working 24/7. And
mhm.
unless you live in a state where they have a union, which I never did, I lived in Florida and in North Carolina, so there were no teachers' unions where I lived. So we just ended up working, 24/7, basically, whenever they needed us. And so it can be very, um, when you talk about challenges that we face on staying focused on what truly matters, when you're in the thick of it and you are climbing that ladder and you're doing your thing, um, there are so many distractions out there, and overcommitting is kind of a biggie for high achieving professionals like us, grannypreneurs. We tend to overcommit or plan more than and we're not really cognizant of how long it's really going to take us to do some of this stuff. And I think the biggest thing is people pleasing. So you can be a high achiever and not be a people pleaser, but I don't
Mhm.
know too many of them. because because
Ooh.
high achievers tend to be people pleasers, and all of those things can pull you off track. And sometimes and often, when you are busy and you're off track or whatever, then everything seems important because you don't
Mhm.
really take the time to kind of sort it out and prioritize. You just feel like everything's urgent, everything needs to get done. And the key to being able to focus on what truly matters and what's really meaningful to you and to all your grandkids or whoever it is in your circle of influence is to learn to recognize when you're off course like that, when everything feels urgent, and try to refocus. And, what I call the silent signs of burnout,
Mhm.
the things that happen to you physically, spiritually, emotionally, there's, several things under those categories that might not seem that big of a deal unless it's long term. So you're
Mhm.
feeling drained or sluggish, maybe headaches or body tension, all these type of things, these silent signs of burnout. If we don't address them, they're going to address themselves in one way or another.
And it
And
makes
I
it
kind
worse for yourself, right? Makes
Yes,
it more
yeah,
challenging for yourself. So
yeah.
you have to be intentional. So that was I love that you said focus, because that's my word of the year. That's one of the
Ah,
things that I choose a word of the year every year, and focus is, and it was kind of funny because a church that I watch, that's their word of the year, and it kind of like confirmed my word at some point there. And I was like, yeah, I need to focus on being intentional, with my daily life, like you're mentioning. I mean, it's really important to focus, focus on everything, making everything a priority. And it's not. So,
mm-mm.
because you mentioned these things, how can setting clear boundaries contribute to reducing stress and improving mental health? Because that's one of those things that happen when you're not being intentional, right? When you're not being intentional of maintaining clarity, making
Yeah,
boundaries, like things like that. So how can people do that? What is the clear boundaries? And you can be very brief, what are the clear
yeah,
boundaries that contribute to reducing stress and improving mental health? Because that is a big, it is a big factor in
It
educators, like
is.
you said, small business owners. I deal with a lot of small non-traditional businesses, like ourselves. We're coaches, we're small non-traditional businesses, entrepreneurs, different things. And sometimes we want to take on too much as small business owners. We don't want to delegate. So how can we reduce stress and improve mental health?
Right. Well, boundary setting sometimes or often is people looking at setting boundaries for other people.
Mm-hmm.
This is my boundary for you or this person or that thing. But sometimes setting those clear boundaries to improve your mental health are the boundaries that you set for yourself, or the intentional parameters that you give yourself. So, making just the small shifts that it takes for you to step aside when you feel like you're getting, and even when you don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer in being proactive.
Mm-hmm.
So stepping aside, journaling sometimes, I call them anchor moments. So
Mm-hmm.
taking time to be intentional,
Mm-hmm.
to plan how you're going to be intentional, and then be consistent with it. So make those pauses in your day sacred so that you can practice observing your feelings instead of just reacting to them. So, in my opinion, boundaries really protect your time, your energy, and your peace. Now, when you're in the workplace or you're dealing with your small business, you might not be able to necessarily control your time,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and but you can control your energy and your peace. It's like a form of self-preservation. So just tell when you're able to say yes to the things that really matter to you, then it's really kind of like a kickstart. So you feel less guilty. You don't feel so stretched thin. You don't feel so burned out or whatever. There's more space for what matters. And even when it gets hectic or chaotic, it still feels good because you're saying yes to the things that matter and walking away to the things that consistently drain you.
And I think, you made a good point about, shifting aside, using some resources and tools and planning ahead. As an accounting person myself, right? I'm an accounting finance. I'm always organizing everything. But there's certain things I don't organize, and I get lost. I get off track. And if I don't organize it or I don't plan it, I don't put it into specific spaces, because I tell my kids all the time, my older kids, is like, hey, if I don't have an appointment, like if it's not in there, I don't, you don't expect me to remember it, right? Because I have everything like detailed intentionally, right? Because you got to sometimes, like you mentioned, with small businesses, our time is limited, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
got to remember
Mm-hmm.
that we got family, we got spiritual time, we got family time, and we have our business time, right? So we have to be able to
Mm-hmm.
fill the gaps, you know and I love that you said, and this goes into one of the next questions. I love that you said journaling. I've never thought about that, because sometimes I don't get a day off, right? Sometimes I'm just working, 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 and I need to be able to
Mm-hmm.
have that day off to relax, to unload, to whatever. But I've never thought about journaling, right? I never thought about that. So
Mm-hmm.
what tools or strategies have you found, other than journaling, which I thought was amazing when you said that, would most be helpful in achieving mental clarity?
Yes. Well, I believe journaling is a big part of it, but it's not necessarily that you have to do it paper to pencil. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, speak into their phone and just talk to themselves and sort of like brainstorm with themselves. Deep breathing exercises make a big difference because we don't realize how shallow we breathe when we're busy and doing so many things. And there's such good research out there about the value of deep breathing. And then, like I said, those sacred pauses. So, those anchor moments between tasks so
Mm-hmm.
that you are able to regroup and reset And it really does kind of help limit the distractions too, because you know when you're going to take a moment, and then you know when you're going to get back on track. And one of my favorite practices personally are the sunrise and sunset sessions that are in the self-expansion program that I use for my coaching
Mm-hmm.
program. And it's really a way to intentionally set the tone for the day. So, like for example, Mondays, today's session is always, it's the same sunrise session on Mondays, and it talks about choosing our thoughts.
Mm.
So if you start the day or start your week on a Monday thinking about those things, then it helps you to stay grounded and focused and aligned on your journey as you go along. If you don't pause and set those intentions, then you just kind of jump in, full force, and you open yourself up for whatever comes your way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you get overwhelmed.
And if anybody's watching this, they need to know this is true. Okay. As an educator, even without a business. Okay. So even if we're in the corporate world, because we have, corporate business jobs, some of us, like me now, but in before, I had a corporate business, then I went to education, and now I have education. Now I have my small business. So we get burnt out no matter what type of business, I mean, what job or career we're in, because we focus on, doing the best that we can, right? Doing the best. And then we also have that mental overload with our own family, like not living up to expectations for the family because we feel like we're working too
Mm-hmm.
much. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so so this is one of those questions. That's the reason I said that, what I said, because I have a good question for that. So, in what ways can clarity in our goals, right, in our goals, enhance the ability to manage work-life balance? Because I think that's really, really important.
It seems like it's cutting out just a little bit.
Oh, I lost you for a second there. There you go. Got you back. Got you back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
Let
All
let
righty.
me repeat that
I'm
question
sorry. I could not
if you
hear.
didn't hear it. Okay, it's
Yeah.
what in what ways can clarity in your goal in our goals, right? When we're thinking about our goals,
Mm-hmm.
enhance our ability to manage work-life balance.
Yeah, that's a good one. And when you know what truly matters, so clarity is knowing what truly matters to you, taking time to figure it out, and it can change over time. So it's not like what used to matter to you 10 years ago may not be as important to you now. So, and it's really easier for you to let go of what doesn't um, fill your cup when you know
Mm-hmm.
what really does. And you're able to set clear goals that help you prioritize and avoid unnecessary stress. So, making space for both work and your personal time is a big thing. And sometimes I found with some of my clients, a good clarity kickstart,
Mm-hmm.
chat session can really go a long way. And it's taking time for you to just get focused, get clear on how you want to move forward, what the right direction is for you, and not just treading water or going full blast in whatever avenue you're going in. Stopping for a minute and give yourself a chance to regroup and make sure that you are on the right track, because I think it's so easy for us to get kind of in a road, in a rut, and just keep going.
And we don't stop and think, hey, our life changes, right? Because what we did 5 years ago is not what we're doing today, right? Every time the technology changes, things change, more things change. Sometimes people don't like to adapt to change. And I
No,
think what you're
no.
saying is really important, like revamping, or like you said, that conversation. What did you mention? You called it a kickstart conversation.
Yeah, a clarity kickstart.
A
Yeah,
clarity kickstart, because the thing is, you're not, it's not always the same, right? Like as time
right.
goes, as things change every time. and you have to be able to change with the change, right? Change with the times.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of people are stuck in their ways. They're like, oh, if it's not broken, let's not fix. But it's not about that. It's about innovating the
Yes.
change. It's not
Yes.
about because it's broke. It's not about because it's broken. It's about where do you want to go from there, right? Like what do you want to
Right.
achieve more and more and stay how do you say it? Stay relevant
Yeah.
with the change, right? Because we have to keep up with we're not keeping up with the Joneses, we're keeping up with technology. Because technology
Yeah.
is not going anywhere. I mean, look at us today, right? Um, so this is really good that you mentioned this because I'm going to get to my final question, and this is really going to be helpful because what role does self reflection play in maintaining that clarity and preventing burnout? Because I think it's really important to see the self reflection in it because it's good to hear about the clarity kickstart, but also what role does that self reflection play in maintaining that clarity and preventing burnout?
Yes, and I appreciate you bringing that up because having a plan and implementing it is really good. But being able to reflect and let your next steps be kind of guided from that reflection is all part of the story. And as educators, we often reflect on our practice and how it's going. Fortunately, in the education field, students get grades, so you
Mm-hmm.
know how well you are teaching them based
Mm-hmm.
on the type of grades that they get. And if you have a number of students who don't get score well on a certain thing, you reteach it, or you
Mm-hmm.
think of a new way to teach it.
Mm-hmm.
So it that reflection just gives you a chance to pause, to course correct, you know, before you burn out. So
Exactly.
it's like I said, pay attention to those silent symptoms of silent burnout so that you can course correct. And even just a few minutes a day can make a big difference. Talking, asking yourself what worked, what didn't work, and just keep yourself aligned and aware of when you need to rest and reset as well. So, reflection is a big tool, a good tool anyway,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to reset and to make sure you're taking the next right step.
That is some great points that you made there because as an educator myself too, sometimes we feel that we're doing a disservice to the student if certain students are not doing well in the course, right? But sometimes, like you mentioned, sometimes it depends on that student's learning style, and we have to
Mm-hmm.
self-reflect how we're teaching the student, right? We may have a teaching style that's a little different, and that goes for even training employees. That goes even for corporate world, not
Exactly.
just higher education, because a lot of people think, oh, just because they're in education. No, it's the same strategy, because people that are in the corporate world are the same thing. They learn differently. Leadership styles are differently. Learning is differently. Learning styles are totally different. And as technology evolves, and I'm bringing technology back in there because it's a key factor, right? In what we do, right? Is especially like as you're coaching different people, the self-care, many times I feel that we need to know if our self-care is revolved around how technology sees us, how technology is verifying us too. And that is a key factor. Now, Cindy, I want you to leave something for us. I want you to give us a quick either tip or a quote that you want people to remember you by, because it's something really important that we want people to know you by, first of all, but also that you want people to think about it, because it's really important to kind of like give that little taste of something, a quote or something that you live by, because this is something that you are so passionate about. And if you want to learn more about Cindy, her information is in the chat and in the comments. But please, Cindy, give us a little quote or
Okay, well,
something.
right. I think it's a thought that you do not need to have a perfect plan to build momentum and create meaningful change. So you just need to take that right step, and clarity comes when you move, when you take that step. And so, you know what? You got what it takes to make that transition. If you just tap into your clarity and kind of learn how to handle your triggers so that you're not constantly being hit with those triggers constantly. I actually have a workbook. It's called 10 Tranquil Solutions, and it's free, and it's a workbook that gives you 10 tranquil solutions so that you can continue to do what you do without feeling, overwhelmed or burned out.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. Well, Cindy, we just had someone comment. We had someone live say that one of the links didn't work, but I just posted the link for it to work there. So you do have the links, and you can always reach out to info@valentin.com for any of our guest speakers. We want to thank you, Cindy, for being here today. But we also want to thank everyone for joining us live. Please like, subscribe,
Mm-hmm.
so you can continue get notifications of the Valentin Consulting YouTube guest speaker series. We are so excited to bring guest speakers every week to you. So like, subscribe, and continue to follow us on our YouTube channel. Thank you and have a wonderful day.